Hello everyone. In this video walkthrough, I would like to introduce to you the visual component for my final thesis project. The visual component for my thesis project is going to be a customized simulator as a visual mental model that the learner could use through direct manipulation and interaction with a virtual digital camera for beginning online or hybrid photography students. The reason that I chose this topic is because of my own personal experience of teaching hybrid photography classes for online students for quite a few years, and witnessing firsthand some of the challenges of learning the abstract photography techniques through online textual information or standalone simulators, online simulators. Through my proposed simulator, the learner can become more engaged in the process of self-directed learning and decision making by directly manipulating and interacting with a virtual digital camera that provides immediate result. And furthermore, this simulator would be presented along in complete lesson plans. So by having the actual lesson plans and exercises specific to the simulator, the learner could bridge the gap between the abstract technical concepts and their own unique mental vision and their own personal experiences, so they can create and build new knowledge that is unique to them, and thus being able to materialize their mental vision more clearly and being able to share that mental vision with others. And so that significantly makes this simulator a much more powerful tool than a lot of the available simulators that are available, and I'll be reviewing them in a second as well and comparing them to what I have here. In my visual simulator, basically, I also received a lot of feedback through surveys that I conducted in my classes about the complexity of the interface for the newer digital cameras. So based on that information and research and result, based on that assessment, I decided to simplify the interface for the beginner learner. So I simplified the interface, so basically we're only dealing with the major settings on a digital camera for a beginner learner. Those settings would be the shutter speed, would be the aperture setting, and it would be the film speed. Also, in the introductory lessons, the learner would be able to manipulate only one setting at a time to develop a fuller understanding of how each setting works before they could actually interact between all the settings together. So for example, in dealing with aperture setting, the learner is only able to manipulate the aperture setting. The shutter speed, for example, would be locked in, let's say at 250, and the film speed would be locked in at, let's say, 200, and the learner could see those settings that are locked into those specific numbers. And the only setting that is available for the learner to manipulate is the aperture setting. So by clicking on the actual numbers or the buttons, they automatically would see a preview of the photograph they would see the preview of the aperture opening, so they automatically could understand that f16 allows less light, thus provides based on the 250 setting of the aperture and film speed, it produces darker images than, let's say, if you had a larger aperture opening. So this visual interaction providing immediate result can really provide a deeper understanding and comprehension of how this technical tools actually function. The next setting would be the shutter speed. So the shutter speed also would function the same. So the aperture would be locked in and the film speed would be locked in, and the only setting that the user could manipulate would be the shutter speed. And they can actually see an animation of, for example, if it's on a really high setting, the animation would move really fast, versus a slower setting where the animation would move really slowly. And I plan to build all these as well. And they also could see the numbers at the bottom of the pictures that are being previewed, so they automatically could directly understand by using a higher number they would get a sharper image than if they used a softer or lower number. They would get a softer photo. And the next setting would be the film speed setting, where they would actually immediately see the noise in the photo, the noise that's produced in the photo. So if there's a lot of noise based on a higher setting, they would see a lot of noise. On a lower number, they would see much softer effect on the image. Once they understand these three main settings, then the lessons basically would become more complex. So then they could manipulate the individual settings all together and see the immediate result on that. There are some available simulators online. So for example, this is one of the most advanced one, and it's one of the ones that is most popular, which is a really great tool, and it does resemble some of the knobs do resemble what you would normally see inside the digital camera, and the user can manipulate the settings by moving. See, this is basically locked in as well, so it says, okay, you got the 400, or basically you have to be able to recognize what these numbers are before this thing could make any sense to anybody. Also, they have some other settings here. So for example, shutter priority or aperture priority, which are really advanced photography techniques. And it's, so if I have no idea what I'm doing and I happen to just click on this setting, first, I don't see an immediate preview on the image, so I can't see what I've done. I have to click on this, and by the time I click on it, I just get this specific setting and some it doesn't really provide any learning capability. That I don't learn anything from using these numbers. I mean, I might write them down, but it's guaranteed that I'll probably forget those numbers. I mean, it's not a deeply seated learning process. This is a great gadget to just play around with, and sort of it's effective for someone who has some knowledge in photography. But if you're for a beginner user that have never heard of what an ISO is or what an aperture is, this is by far very, very confusing. And I used this in many of my classes, and it was not a successful experience by far. So based on this experience, based on this assessment that I had, I've decided to simplify the interface. and to make it very graphic, very similar to what an actual camera, DSLR camera would look like. I also have made a, a, um, a very rough version of this, what I've been talking about. So in this one, only one option is active at this point. So this would be the animated aperture that I was talking about. So for example, if I go here, oops. So if I go here, once the learner clicks on any of these settings, this aperture basically would open and reflect, and they would see the number right here. And based on these settings, once you click on each one, you can kind of see that this is the manipulated image, this is the original image. And as you also go lower, you see more of a depth of field, which means it's gonna the object that's closer to the lens is going to be sharp, but everything else is going to drop out of focus, whereas the images that are on a higher number of aperture setting would be all in focus. So this is only one right now that's functioning, but I just wanted to share that with you. Once I built the 3 settings, and basically there would be lesson plans and exercises specific to the simulator for a fuller experience, then the learner could interact with all the settings, and then I would like to introduce additional options to this simulator, for example, basic color corrector or exposure setting for added complexity. But for the beginning, those are the 3 main settings that I'll be manipulating for this visual component. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to your feedbacks.